We have Tulsi Gabbard, and we have JD Vance. JD Vance just absolutely decimates Kirsten over at Meet the Press. Welcome to John, Mike, Keen.
I don't know if you've seen some of the headlines, Bobby, but over the last few days, there have been some articles written by the mainstream media talking about members, Democrats in Congress and others in the Biden administration who are expressing their grave concern about the fact that President Trump is doing something that has not been done before in what Bobby just talked about, that he has a privately funded transition team that is already getting to work.
Trump is already getting to work because he's already knows he's going to win. But this is the big news. He's not using taxpayer dollars on his transition team.
And they're like, well, how come he's not using taxpayer dollars for this and going through the Government Accountability Office? Something is very wrong here. Well, we should all have hope and how freaked out they are.
I have hope. It means they're losing. They know they're losing. By the way, they're even saying, why aren't you using our transition team, realizing that Trump's going to win and they need to use the transition team?
Because we're not allowing Joe Biden's Government Accountability Office to control President Trump's transition team.
That's where all the moles and all the rats come from. They come in from the previous administration. They go, we'll help you set everything up. And they put in all their bugs everywhere, listening devices.
They're freaking out because they can't place their moles within the transition team to try to figure out what Donald Trump is doing so that they can spin up their media propaganda machines and try to preempt and undermine the work that we are doing to bring great patriots together to actually fix the government.
That's the one thing the government doesn't want, is for people to fix it.
So the doing things different has already started. And the more you hear these people in Washington that freak out, the more you should know, like, all right, we're doing good.
Kept that laugh on at the end. She's so confident, and it's great. That's a great plan because they have to fire a ton of people as soon as they come in, that administrative state, and they should not. Trump is smart this time. He is not going to trust the deep state.
So this week we learned that China was behind a broad hacking campaign targeting the phones of both presidential campaigns, highlighting the threat that China poses to this country. And yet Donald Trump recently called his domestic political opponents, quote, the enemy from within, and said they are more dangerous than Russia and China. Do you believe that people like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi are more dangerous than Russia and China?
Well, I think what Donald Trump said is that those folks pose a greater threat to United States' peace and security because America is strong enough to stand up to any foreign adversary.
Do you agree with him?
She's so busy interrupting him. He should say at that point, I'm speaking. Play that role on her. Quit womansplaining me. But I think it's great. His answer too, it shows confidence in America. He goes, we can handle foreign adversaries. We can't handle people from within doing what they're doing.
Pose a larger threat to the United States than Russia and China?
What he said, and I do agree with this, what he said is that the biggest threat we have in our country, it's not a foreign adversary because we can handle these guys. We can handle foreign conflicts. We can handle, look, under Nancy Pelosi's long life in public leadership, the United States has gone from the preeminent industrial power of the world to second next to China.
That can only happen from within. That's purely from our nation, what we did, what Nancy Pelosi did, what all our politicians did, and Trump's going to reverse it.
That fundamentally belongs on Nancy Pelosi's shoulders. And if we're going to have a more prosperous country, we've got to recognize our own leadership is why we lost our industrial base to China. Our own leadership is failing to lead this country into peace and prosperity.
That is all the case I need to be convinced that our greatest threats are from our own bad decisions, our own weakness. That includes Republicans. It might even include Trump. It's actually great and empowering to realize that you can fix your problems by fixing yourself, your own country, instead of being terrified and flailing and acting like these people, these other countries are more powerful than America. They're not more powerful than what we do ourselves.
Of course, Kamala Harris, look, when I look at the biggest threats to America, Kristen, I think the fact that people can't afford groceries, the fact that we can't meet our recruitment goals in the military, the fact that Americans have a wide open southern border, that's a way bigger threat than any foreign threat. And yes, it's caused by broken leadership.
He blew her up, thankfully. Good job, JD Vance. I can't even imagine Tim Walz trying to field a question like that and just flounder all over his bumbling self and call himself a knucklehead. JD Vance is doing clear, great leadership. We are going to fix this thing. It's going to be up to Trump and his campaign, but we're behind him. We're all behind him. That's what Americans are voting for. We're taking responsibility. Liberals always blame the other side and play the victim and say, I'm helpless. I can't do anything. JD Vance is showing what Americans do. You take responsibility and then you do it. I'm John Mike Keane.